But here, perfect example, a guy wrote a book. He doesn't know how to, if you don't want to sell your book, and if you don't want to talk about your book, no one's going to buy your book. And I hate to say it, he went to one of these publishers that probably charged him thousands of dollars, and guess what he got out of it? Nothing.
Yeah. And, there's one other thing I tell, you hit another point that's right on target, Gary, which is everybody and their dog is writing a book these days, because as we all get more mature, people, especially the baby boomer folks, which I include myself there.
You mean old?
All of a sudden, folks start thinking, the entire world wants to hear about the way things used to be. And here's a 411. No one cares. No one cares if you used to use a skate key to put skates on your shoes, or that you played kick the can until dark. No one cares. They don't care. So, if you're going to write something, you either need to write something in a genre like, true crime or horror or something, science fiction, or if you're going to write about, your experiences, they better have some traction where people can read them not only today, but 10 years or 20 years from now, and there's something in them that resonates with people. And if you can't do that, or you don't understand that, again, you're just going to break your heart for nothing. I'm not saying don't try it, but another thing is that I've met a lot of authors, and because I used to work in the entertainment business as well, and I have never met a single one who is not a voracious reader. I'm talking about a successful author. And that, to think, a lot of people think that because they can, they can type, they can write. No. There's, if you're not a voracious reader and you're reading everything you can get your hands on, you're not giving yourself the background to draw on to do your own writing so it flows and you know what to do in terms of character development. So there's also software out there which my wife and I have been fiddling around with that'll really make you laugh. And what it is, it's software that will help you track your plot. So if, say, you're doing a crime novel, you can put in, where you want the crime to happen and what you want the murder weapon to be and who the main characters are, and you can put in elements of the characters, and it'll keep track of it all. And also, if you have somebody stabbed, for example, in your crime novel, the software will later ask you, what were they stabbed with? And then what happened to the weapon? In other words, if someone doesn't have the inherent skill to do that, the software will keep track of all those details so the story hangs together. That stuff is all out there. So anybody who is going to, I will tell you, I don't use it, mainly because I've had a lot of exposure over the years with various writing and scripts and productions and various things. So, I get it about what you have to do there. But a lot of folks who don't have that experience, that's some stuff that it's probably wise to look at.
Oh, yeah. Now we need to move along with you because we got a half an hour, and I know we killed all this on that, and I want to thank you for talking about it because there's so many people, that, contact me that are writing books, and they just, I can give them advice, but, I'm not an author. So any advice I give them, they kind of brush it off because they know I don't know what I'm talking about. But you know what? I do know what I'm talking about because, besides being in radio since 1976, I did a lot of sales in radio. And, the hardest thing out there is to sell radio. Trust me. So you're selling yourself. You're selling the radio station. You write a book. You're selling your book. You're selling yourself.
Yep. And I love the line from one movie, I think it was Best in Show, where this guy had been working in radio, and he said, people ask me what I do, and I tell them I sell air. That's what I do. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good description. So you better be pretty good with what you do if you're able to sell air,
Yeah, especially hot air.
Years ago, You probably feel this way sometimes. I was on the air for a bit, and my grandfather said to me, "What do you do exactly?" And I thought about it, and I said, "I sit in a little room and talk into a pipe." And what you do, Gary, the reason that I'm so appreciative of it, stroke jobs notwithstanding, is it's hard. It's like writing. People think that monitoring a show like what you do is somehow music and champagne and hordes of people. No, it's not. Really good people like yourself who do what you do are sitting alone in a room and having to carry the thing and make it interesting and fun with a lot of different kinds of people and information. And things always look easy from the outside, right?
Well, it does until you do it yourself. I will say this, and we'll get into about your books. When I first got into radio, I went through, broadcast training with two of the top DJs in the Northwest. And I thought I was all polished. My first job, I was so excited, was going to be doing top 40. That's what I was trained to do. And I went to the station, I interviewed, they said, "You're hired." They said, "We'll start you, next month on the 1st. I went and got an apartment. I went there the day to do my show. I walk in there and they go, "Oh, we changed our format. We're no longer doing top 40. And I'm going, "Oh God, I hope it isn't country," because I can never put a country act. And they said, "No, we're doing talk radio."
Perfect.
Not when you're like in your early 20s and you don't even pay attention to what's going on around you, But I had to sit there, and there was a newspaper, so I kind of read what was happening locally. And then I got behind the microphone, and I started talking about there was a cult in the area, and people were gone missing and all that stuff. The next thing I knew, I was doing a paranormal talk show, and it stuck with me for how many years now?
So the warning you got that what you'd been hired to do was no more was when you walked in to do it?
Right when I walked in. And the bad part is, they said, "Do you hear that song playing?" And I can remember what the song was playing. It was Bee Gees, a song called Fanny. And I could hear it through their monitor speakers, in the waiting room. And they go, "Well, guess what? Soon as that song stops, you're on the air with your talk show."
Oh, my gosh. Oh, Lordy me. Only in radio.
Oh, yeah. I remember running into the studio, sitting down, the other DJ's like laughing his head off as he's walking out. And I'm looking at this 45 spinning, and it's almost at the end. I kept saying, "Is there any way I can push it back and make it longer?" Oh, no. I tell you, the news came on, and there I was. And that, hey, what can I say? It's history.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the old days of radio, sadly, are gone. And, I think I mentioned it briefly when we were talking before we went on the air that I'm writing a second book now. I'm probably half done. Tales 2, Tales from the Day 2. And one of the, by popular demand, which, as I mentioned, was my publisher, so popular demand of one. But that's the big barking dog in the room, right? And one of the stories that I wrote about, which I'd like to touch on. By the way, can I give a shameless plug for my book that's out there?
Why not?
Well, it's Tales from the Day, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all reputable and not so reputable bookstores everywhere.
Yeah, and you guys need to go on Amazon and order it, because he can have pizza if you do.
Man, if people order enough books, I'll throw in a 6-pack of beer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, as long as it isn't Coors. I'm sorry.
So, anyway, one of the, I was thinking about, history and things of long ago, not long ago for you, but for me. And, in the old days of radio, like what you're talking about, one of the stories I wrote is called "The Day We Pitched the Loan Shark." And as a lot of your listeners out there probably don't know it, but local radio used to be kind of like people who ran it were sort of like carnies, people who ran sideshows and come in and see JoJo the dog-faced boy and throw the ball through the hoop sort of people. Because local radio, as you know, it was run by nobody ever had any money.
No, it was all trade out.
Yeah, and now all the small stations have been bought up by the big conglomerates. So the old days of the hucksters and the promoters and the folks in small radio stations are no more. It's all done pre-recorded formats and satellite beamed and all that kind of stuff. But when I got involved with radio, it wasn't like that. It was back in the day when all these small stations were out there. And as you probably remember, and you and I will never admit it to the IRS, but people used to trade everything. Yeah. Nobody had any money. So, but if you needed a car, you'd trade unsold airtime for the car, airtime that of your inventory you couldn't sell. Needed a vacation, you'd trade airtime for it. And when I first got into radio, nobody ever had any money, but nobody ever paid for anything. Not restaurant meals, not cars, not vacations. It just traded it all. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And it was just like a giant bazaar full of hucksters selling things to each other. And God, I miss it. But
so do I. Not really.
But
Not really.
This guy, his name was Frank. That's the guy I told you about who sat on his balcony in the house in Malibu, which he traded, I might add. And he was called, when I met him, he was at his probably the top of his arc, called the King of Trade. And he'd started out by owning a little radio station in the bayous of Louisiana. Now, you can imagine, Gary, there was nobody listening to that station but crawdads and catfish. And he started trading the airtime because he couldn't sell it. And pretty soon he'd become the king of trade. He traded an elephant parade for his daughter's birthday. He traded a cruise ship, became part owner of a cruise ship. And I had met him, and I was selling things for cash at the time. And one day he decided that a startup airline wasn't giving him the trade he deserved. So he hired a L.A. attorney called Mad Dog.
Oh,
and
wow.
they went to the L.A. airport and put a boot on the plane, like you do on a car.
Seriously?
And
Oh, wow.
And it was my account, right? So you can imagine, my phone starts ringing at 3 a.m, and it made the national news, and people were screaming and yelling, and as you can imagine, passengers were stranded. So anyway, Frank and I parted company, and one day he calls me up and he says, "Wayne, I got an idea. I bought a little radio station in Las Vegas." Now, Gary, mind you, the signal wouldn't get outside of Las Vegas, but he didn't care. There's nothing outside of Las Vegas anyway but lizards.
Pretty much.
And he said,
or dead people, dead people buried all over the desert. I'm sorry.
Well, that's kind of what I'm going to imply a little bit here. And so he says, "Look, we're going to trade all the airtime. We're not going to sell anything for cash, and you're going to help me, and we'll live like kings. We'll trade everything. Where we live, we'll trade our cars, whatever." And when he heard nothing but silence on my end of the phone, he offered what he used to call some walking around money. So I thought, well, okay. So I went in, and the sell was easy. Well, I'm sure you've done it in your day where you say, "Hey, I can't pay you for $10,000 worth of restaurant meals, but here's $10,000 worth of airtime, and we'll advertise your restaurant," right? And but anyway, you can't pay your mortgage with restaurant trade. So
Yeah.
one day, Frank calls me in his office and he says, "We need some money." And I thought, well, no surprise there. And he said, "You and I are going to sell a cash advertising contract to Jim's bail bonds." Now, Gary, I was new to Las Vegas, but even I knew that Big Jim, who was owner of Jim's bail bonds, he was a notorious loan shark, the biggest one in Las Vegas, and definitely not a guy you want to screw around with. So Jim's bail bonds was a front for his loan sharking business, and his son, called Little Jim, was mean as a rattlesnake, and he worked in that business with him. And I looked at Frank and I said, "What?" And Frank says, "Yeah, I've even recorded a sample commercial for him." And he plays this thing, and